Welcome to the Visa Halftime Report. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Hey guys, welcome to the Visa Halftime Report. Pardon my voice. It's cracking just a little bit, but we're back. DC with MTA, back with you once again. And this is something kind of weird and crazy about DC. I mean, as we mentioned earlier before the report started, we do know, everyone knows about the dignified statues in DC, like Logan Circle and Lafayette Square. But what about Unicorn Lane? Yes, there is a Unicorn Lane in DC. It's between upper northwest of DC, the DC area, and along Oregon Avenue, west of Rock Creek Park. The closest station to that will be Friendship Heights Station along the Red Line. And if I would find it, give me a second here, folks. It's actually right near Rock Creek Park in DC, and it's very funny. I gotta tell you that, folks. It's just right here. It is a neighborhood circle, and there's only one way to get out to go to your Oregon Avenue. If you take a look here, that is, we got Unicorn Lane circle right here, and then just goes into a bigger circle. There's just one little exit right there, and they can go on Oregon Avenue there. Yeah, it's actually a very weird place, and there is a unicorn statue up there as well. Thanks to somebody posting this on Flickr. It's in the, like I said, in the upper northwest area. The closest station is Friendship Heights and Tenleytown area. So this is what Unicorn Lane looks like. There is a statue on there too, which is actually very funny. But yeah, if you want to get around the city, go on to Oregon Avenue, and then you can, do the rest of the shenanigans going on, who knows where. But that doesn't stop us there. Aside from Unicorn Lane, we got some more growing Amtrak service in Virginia, which this month marks a decade since Virginia debuts first state-sponsored Amtrak routes from Lynchburg and Richmond that both terminate in D.C. Such milestones are important, but the Commonwealth also has other figures to celebrate, like the fact that its rail ridership has grown more than 7% within the last year, which is partly because there are more opportunities to ride. And the DRBT, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, expanded rail service to Hampton Roads by adding 2 more trains between Richmond and Norfolk, as well as one that goes to Newport News, which is kind of nice, honestly. The state's already planning a 3rd Norfolk-bound train for 2021. And Jennifer Mitchell did say that there's been a tremendous shift within the past 5 years towards multimodal thinking. And they're very focused on rail expansion in Virginia. It's been tremendous success so far. Roads are congested, and people have to provide, alternatives need to be provided for those who drive on I-81, 95, and I-64. The move is exciting, but Virginia has a lot of ways to go before train service is on par with its international neighbors, much less with its regional ones. And there's a lot of room for growth. On any given weekday, there are 40 Amtrak trains that leave from Baltimore, Maryland, and head to D.C., and another 29 from the Maryland area. MARC trains depart from Pennsylvania Station to the nation's capital, and 8 of them to make the journey from D.C. to Baltimore's Camden Station. And by contrast, there are only 2 Amtrak trains that travel from D.C. from the main street station in Richmond to Virginia each day. So, and part of that disparity surely results from distance. And while Baltimore just lies 40 miles northeast from the district, Virginia's capital is 3 miles further south. And a quick glance abroad illustrates how shamefully underserved Richmond is and how much better connected it should be. It's 77 trains per day. Yeah, 77 trains per day from Baltimore to D.C. may sound quite impressive, but if Americans invested in rail transportation as the Dutch do, they could have a mixture of local and express lines departing on average 8 minutes, every 8 minutes, as is custom between the Amsterdam and the Hague, which is very impressive numbers from what Dutch has. It's also roughly 40 miles apart from one another. And such high-frequency services equates nearly double the number of connections between the 2 cities each day. And the trip from Amsterdam to Groningen, the Netherlands' 7th largest city, is roughly 120 miles, the same distance from Richmond to D.C. And instead of just 2 trains a day, passengers can head from Amsterdam to Groningen 42 times a day at a cost of just $29. And while Dutch-style intercity service may be a pipe dream for now, officials across the capital region are working to make higher-speed rail and more frequent passenger and commuter service a reality within the next decade. And the Long Bridge overhaul will mean better train service. So one way to better rail service between DC and Virginia, and alleviating local rail bottleneck, the local rail's current bottleneck, that is, which is the Long Bridge. So currently, all DC bound trains from Virginia have to pass over the Long Bridge, which is a 110-year-old rail crossing. Yes, it's over a century old. Privately owned by CSX, which spans the Potomac River between DC and Arlington. If the Long Bridge were to fail, the next closest north-south rail connection passes through Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. And so here's a current look at two lines provided by Amtrak, and they have Amtrak and marked stops. So the marked stop is the only one is Union Station, which is very obvious. But as you can see here, you can go past Franconia, Springfield, Lorton, Woodbridge, and so forth, down all the way to Spotsylvania. On the Fredericksburg line, on the Manassas line, you can go on Backlick Road, Burke Center, Manassas Park, and Broad Run. And that's pretty much it on that area, on that side. And the critical nature of this connection across the Potomac means the Long Bridge is already at 98% capacity. If you're not aware, the metro runs along that bridge, not like on the bridge exactly, but along the bridge. There's another sidetrack that goes from LaFont Plaza to Pentagon. And if Virginia wants to add more Amtrak, Virginia Railroad Express, or even freight trains into its statewide transportation portfolio, then Long Bridge needs an overhaul, which is the connection between the entire Northeast and Southeast rail corridors. And this is a project with national implications and impact, from what Mitchell said. And happily, the District Department of Transportation just released its environmental impact statement on September 5th earlier, and Virginia looks poised to keep the momentum going. So current plans envision a new two-track bridge that just upstream of the existing Long Bridge, which is a new one, but it's publicly held and would be dedicated to passenger and commuter service, while the old one will carry all freight traffic along the corridor. And the full expansion plans to cover a almost 2-mile stretch that would add 2 new tracks to Union Station to support northbound Amtrak and VRE service, as well as 2 more tracks that would veer to the East Virginia Avenue. It would veer to the Virginia Avenue Tunnel that serves freight only. To take full advantage of this added capacity, Virginia plans to build out its network by adding a 3rd set of tracks from Lorton to Franconia in the south, as well as a 4th from Alexandria to the Long Bridge. And it's about creating more capacity and more reliable service, and it goes hand in hand with the Long Bridge to expand rail across the state. And without this additional expansion, there won't be any clearance, or not enough, I should say, available to support the much touted DC2 RVA high-speed rail, which is planned on September 5th as well. And also the record of this decision also came out on that day, revealing plans to build out track almost all the way from DC to Richmond, except through Ashland, to add 9 round trips per day, 4 of them continuing to North Carolina. And there are challenges also in Central Virginia. Northern Virginia's problems are capacity issues, and solving them won't be enough to increase connectivity between Richmond and DC. And for that, Central Virginia will have to tackle its own challenges. And today, 2 lines pass through the River City. The A line veers west via Stables Mill, and it currently handles all rail traffic to Raleigh and beyond. And the S line stops at Main Street Station downtown and continues onward to Hampton Roads without linking back up with the rest of the southeastern network. In order to make high-speed rail from DC to Raleigh truly useful, the S line serving Richmond's Main Street Station will need to be connected to Amtrak's main A line or further south, likely before this Ettrick Station in Chesterfield. Ettrick, kind of weird, a unique name, I should say. A lot of new infrastructure will also be required in order to switch all southbound traffic to the S line. This new configuration would make Staples Mill Richmond more suburban commuter station with large amounts of parking, and Main Street Station, Richmond's most served terminal, nestled firmly within its downtown. And thankfully, Virginia is one of the few states that has dedicated rail funding, and nonetheless, local lawmakers are eyeing another way to pay for the necessary investments. And after last year's General Assembly session sealed a deal to create a dedicated funding stream for the I-81 corridor, Central Virginia became the only region in the Commonwealth lacking a mechanism to generate revenue for transportation and transit projects. And to see Virginia's lawmakers are as serious as its bureaucrats about rail services. That is only. So one need only wait till next session in 2020. So yeah, a lot of planning with the Virginia rail station to go further North Carolina. It would be a crazy idea for Amtrak to do that, but they spent 2 years' time to have rail permit extension. That's it for now. We'll see you guys back at Metro Center for the second half. I'll come to you.